we've been lifelong friends, but you're here because we have a guest coming up that is of interest to you in your business, right?
Yeah,
So
no, absolutely. So yeah, I'm really excited to meet Avery and to get to speak with her. And
why?
and I can't even um just because I think the knowledge and the experience that she has, right? So I think this is an opportunity to chat with someone uh who's normally not in my circle, it's not in my space, right? So I know she does a lot of podcasts, a lot of interviews, and she speaks at a lot of conferences. But I'm assuming that even in those spaces, it's difficult to sort of have a one-on-one, right? I mean, everyone is fighting for her attention. So today, right, we actually have that opportunity. So I
Yeah.
think that's super awesome, and just
And why
you
is
know,
she important to you?
because she's doing what I want to do. She's doing it in the real estate space from a STR perspective, right? It's something that I started to do a year and a half, 2 years ago. Um, I have my feet wet. I'm transitioning some of my long-term properties to STR. But there's still a lot for me left to learn, right? I don't think you ever finish learning. And she's been in the STR space for a very long time. And I want to say that when you think of short-term rentals and Airbnbs and you think of the experts, I mean, Avery Carl comes up all the time.
She's at the
You
top of
know,
the list.
she absolutely is. So from my perspective, it's really I want to learn. I want to learn, what are some of the tips and tricks? What are some of the insights? How do you maximize profitability? How do you minimize vacancies, expenses? Those are some of the things that can make and break your business when you're talking about STRs. It's very different than long term. So yeah, so I'm excited to see what she has to share
Yeah.
and what gems or takeaways I can get and then try to incorporate those into my business.
Yeah. And Jesus, tell us a little bit about your business though. How like where are your STRs? How many you have?
Yeah,
All that.
yeah,
Actually, let me
yeah,
even take it a little bit back. Let me dump this down a little bit more. I know you're also building a big following yourself, and
correct.
that following is very niche specific. So they all know what an STR is, but my followers don't. The people who listen to the Wayfinder
Nice.
show may or may not. So just for I may back it up a little bit and just say, define things. So STR is a short-term rental. Some people
Uh,
just the most common platform is Airbnb. So a lot of
correct,
people just call them Airbnbs, right? But STR,
correct. Is
when you,
short term
yeah,
and it's usually less than 28 days. So
yeah,
when we talk about STRs, everyone thinks Airbnb, just like you mentioned, and it's usually less than 28-day stays.
hmm
Then there's this new category, or what I consider a new category called midterm rentals, MTRs. And this is usually 29, 30 days to about 6 months. In my business, it is a lot of travel nurses, digital nomads, contractors that are coming into an area to work for 1 month plus. So those are the folks that fall into that MTR space. I mean, there's other avatars that do, but for my business, those are the primary people that I engage and that I host. As far as my portfolio, so I started off with long term. So our first unit was, or our first building, multifamily, residential, and commercial all in one.
mm,
So the residential piece, working with the tenants, working with the property, making sure that everything is kept up well and trying to mitigate issues as soon as possible. I had to learn that, right? That was on the residential side, but the commercial space is something completely different. Like if you think they're both the same, that is not the case.
right,
I made a lot of errors on the commercial side, just with the leases themselves. There's so many things that I've learned now, but it's just kind
yeah,
of part of that journey. Um, So that's where the majority of my experience is. It's in residential, multifamilies, and then some of the commercial space. I have a few multifamily buildings, majority in Boston. I do have one in Attleboro. I know we were talking about that the other day. It's the next town over is Rhode Island, where you grew up.
That's right.
So I do have one in your area. And then the other properties are here in the Boston area.
Yeah. Why did you switch to short-term rental?
I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of YouTube interviews, and I had a lot of friends, local friends that were doing Airbnbs, and they kept telling me, Jesus, you have to look at this. You have to check it out. You have to give this a try. And I think sometimes it always seems like, the grass is greener. No matter
Yeah.
what someone tells you, it always, that sounds like too much work. I don't know. And I hesitated. And then one time I found a good opportunity to test it out. I had a finished basement in one of my multifamilies, and I was like, you know what? Let me try this Airbnb thing in this space, right? I'm not losing anything per se. Invested some money, renovated the space, then we furnished it. Again, I'm putting money in. I haven't even applied for the permit.
Mm,
I mean, so it was like,
it's scary.
we're doing this or we're doing this. So, but I went all in. I wouldn't advise folks to do that. But I went all in. Luckily, things worked out. And I mean, 4 months, 5 months in, this little basement apartment or studio was making almost as much as one of my regular three-bedroom apartments.
Mm,
And now again, right, to put things in perspective, it is season. So in 6 months, I was able to see why people were so all in to Airbnb. I was able to see when they talk about, oh, you can get up to three times the amount of regular rent. I mean, I saw that. I received the 1099 from Airbnb at the end of the year. And I think that's when it really hits you. Like when you see all the numbers together, you're like, holy crap, we made how much? Like, you know,
yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
that light bulb moment. And obviously you have expenses, you have utilities, you have these different things that still come into play. But that was an eye opener for me, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
there may be an opportunity here.
All right. Hi, Avery.
Hey, how are you?
Okay. So Avery, we're trying something different with you. I hope you don't mind. We
I
already
no.
started recording. We have a special guest host on who's a
Okay,
big
cool.
fan of yours.
Okay,
So
I am,
surprise.
I am.
awesome. Love it.
Yeah, we started doing something on the Wayfinder show. I have a newsletter that comes out, and on there I have all the guests who are coming up, who are scheduled. And yours was on there. And Jesus is a friend of mine from back in college. We've been friends for like
Yeah,
30 years now,
yeah,
and he's been doing the short-term rental thing in Boston recently. So once you get into that, somehow we find you. You're always you start looking
yeah.
for who's doing it right, and your name always comes up. So he's like, I wanna be down for that episode. So
I
Well,
I had
thanks.
to bribe Louis to be on the show today.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you.
And luckily the check didn't even bounce, man. It cashed real smooth. You
Nice.
know why? Because of your short-term rental business. So that's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
Avery, if you don't mind me introducing you, I wrote
Yeah, sure.
a little bit here about you. You're the founder and CEO of the Short Term Shop, the nation's top real estate brokerage, specializing in short-term rental investment properties. As an investor herself, Avery built a portfolio of 240 plus stores, leveraging short-term rentals to scale into larger investments. You've written the book on short-term rentals called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, and you've been featured in Forbes, Business Insider, Wall Street Journal, and other publications for your expertise in helping clients build wealth through short-term rentals. So,
Yeah,
Avery Carl, welcome to the Wayfinder Show.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Oh, what a welcome.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. This is exciting. So, we start where we usually do, which is just let people know a little bit about your journey. How'd you get into this mess? of short-term rentals and where's it gone?
This mess of real estate investing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I bought my first rental property. It was a long-term rental because my husband and I had saved up like $10,000. We just gotten married. I had what I thought was my dream job, working in the music business in Nashville, gotten my master's degree, all to make $37,000 a year because the music business, it sounds very sexy. And because of that, people will do it for no money just to say they were in a room with some stupid country music singer last night. And so there's always somebody who will do it for less. So anyway, I was making nothing, had a little bit of money saved up, and I was super into personal finance at the time. I mean, still am in a lot of ways, but not the way that I was. And I was reading all the Dave Ramsey books and trying to, make sure we got off to the right start in our marriage financially. And like, well, what can we do with this money so it's not just like sitting in the bank? And said, let's go to a financial planner and have somebody tell us what to do. And so we went to an Edward Jones office. This lady, I can't even remember her name, but thank God she did this. We went in there and told her, a little bit about us, what we wanted to do. And she basically told us we didn't have enough money for her to bother with.
Oh,
And we were
gosh.
like, oh, great. Okay. So we left. And on the way home, we were thinking, we're talking like, well, what do we do? There's got to be something we can do with this to make it grow rather than just like let it sit. And our realtor, who we had just moved from New York City to Nashville about a year and a half earlier, and she had really been trying to get us to buy in this super hip, fast appreciating area of Nashville. She kept harping on like how fast it's appreciating. And we were like, no, we're moving from Brooklyn to Tennessee. We're done with neighbors. We had two neighbors, first floor Steve and second floor Steve, in our like brownstone that we lived in. It was like, we don't want any more of that. So we said, we want to be out in the country. And she said, okay. Okay. So we bought something out in the country and never thought about it again. But I thought about after, on the way home from being told that we were too broke to bother with, that, well, what if we saved up a little bit more? Because at the time, houses in Nashville were like $100,000. And what if we saved up a little bit more and bought one of those, put a renter in it so we're not paying the bills on it? And then in 25 years, whenever we decide to have kids and they grow up and need to go to college, then we'll be able to just sell it, pay for their college out of that appreciation, and we'll be these great financial geniuses that didn't have to pay out of our own income and savings. And so we did it. We just went and bought one. And, yeah, we had to save up a little bit more, another 5,000-ish, because you can put 15% down on an investment property. A lot of people don't realize that. And bought one without researching, without anything. This is 2013. And there were no YouTube channels, no gurus really. I mean, there were probably a few, but so we bought one, and the mortgage on that was $647 a month, and we were able to rent it out for $1,550, so almost $1,000.
That's not bad at all.
Which, yeah, not bad for not knowing what you're doing on a long-term rental. And coincidentally, it's about how much I was making at my dream job after all the deductions and stuff on my paycheck a month. So we thought, man, this house is making as much money as me, and I'm going to work all day and it's doing it. I could be doing whatever while that's happening. So we said, well, we need more of these. And then we started listening to like the Bigger Pockets podcast, which was about it back then. There was really just the Bigger Pockets podcast, and learning about real estate investing. We didn't even know it was called real estate investing when we bought that first one. Most people do that the other way around. They research and then they buy something. So anyway, we saved up a little more and we thought, well, what can we buy that's going to make us the most amount of money the fastest so that we can buy more? And the goal was not to quit my job. The goal was not to get rich. The goal was to buy more. We need more. And so we landed on short-term rentals, but we knew we didn't want to do it in Nashville. Nashville's very anti-short-term rental. We could not afford to be told that we couldn't do it. So we'd just been on vacation to the Smoky Mountains in Pigeon Forge, 4 hours east of Nashville. We'd stayed in a rental cabin. All our friends had stayed in different rental cabins, and somebody owned those cabins. Those are short-term rentals. Okay, let's do that in a place where it's like the normal thing to do. So we scraped all the pennies out of the bottom of my purse and in between the car seats and made a down payment on one of those. And again, there were no There were no people on Instagram with yellow subtitles telling you the 5 biggest mistakes that short-term rental owners make. And so we just figured out how to manage it ourselves remotely from 4 hours away. One thing led to another, scaled that to about 5 over the next 18 months, started throwing some long-term rentals in there, started my company, the short-term shop, about 4 years later. So we bought that first short-term in 2015, started the short-term shop, or what would eventually become a short-term shop, in 2017, because there weren't really any agents in the space who could answer our basic questions like, how much should this make? Or is this a better rental on this side of town or that side of town? What rent's better? Nobody knew those things. So I just started as a single agent. We had friends, and I wasn't really even going to become a real estate agent, but friends would say, oh, you're making how much on that cabin in the Smokies? Help me buy one. Teach me how to do that. And then it just grew to friends of friends, and then people that we didn't know. And then people were saying, hey, is there somebody like you that I can talk to in Destin, Florida? And I'm like, well, not that I know of, but let's put a me there. And then the short-term shop was born. And so now we've got 20 offices, 60 agents. We've helped over 5,000 investors buy and sell short-term rentals. Sold over a little over 3 billion in short-term rentals since about 2019. So, and then I've grown my personal portfolio to about 250 doors. 8 of those are short-terms. The rest are more traditional long-terms and multifamily. So that's it.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I got a quick question for you. So when you were doing the, so you get into the first STR and then you just begin to buy more in the Smoky Mountains area. Are you looking at, okay, what's the threshold or what's the number before you buy the next one? Like sort of how are you figuring out when to buy that next STR?
So for us back then, it was as soon as we had a big enough down payment. As soon as we had the down payment, we were buying another one. And also, we were a lot younger. We didn't have kids. So we could afford to operate that in a way that we would not operate today. But every dollar, and still to this day, 250 doors later, every dollar that we make on real estate investments, so every dollar of that cash flow goes back into buying more real estate.
Nice.
We don't live on our investment income, which I think is the biggest mistake that people make in their first 2 or 3 deals.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. How have you seen the STR world evolve since then? You started by looking into Smoky Mountains. Are you all over now? And yeah.
So it's evolved quite a bit. So when I started in 2015, I mean, I wish we knew then what we know now with what the prices of real estate were back then. And I mean, I would have bought 1,000 before 2020 hit. So I think that there was kind of like a perfect storm of popularity of the short-term rental asset class starting in 2020. So, the vacation rental, which is kind of what I invest in. I like to separate that out from the larger short-term rental asset class. I only do vacation rentals. So in vacation markets where it's been the normal thing for people to go rent a cabin or a beach house or a condo, lake house forever, decades. My grandmother's been coming down here to Destin, Florida and renting a place since the 30s. Wow. So I like areas that have that longevity of the asset class. So it's not a new asset class at all. But when Airbnb came along, it kind of democratized it and made it an asset class where you could actually cash flow. Whereas before, you were beholden to all the local property management companies. They were charging 40% of your gross because what are you going to do? You have no other option except to rent it with them or not rent it at all. And Airbnb changed that and actually made it a viable investable asset class and not just a toy like a boat. So that kind of started catching on, I would say, in 2016. Then you get up to COVID in 2020 and it kind of exploded. Well, all real estate exploded in 2020 with 2% interest rates. I mean, my Chihuahua could have bought real estate then. Like everybody was buying real estate. A lot of people that shouldn't have been buying real estate. So we saw a big influx in inventory of short-term rentals because everybody bought one because they'd say, oh my God, the payment on a beach house is going to be what? I can handle that. It's something that, everybody's always wanted a vacation home. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Everybody has not always said, you know what, I'd really like to have a 32 unit apartment complex in Omaha, Nebraska, but they have said, hey, I'd like to have a beach house. I'd like to have a mountain house. So that coolness, like that thing that everybody's always wanted, kind of became attainable. And then Airbnb, oh, well, let me just slap it on Airbnb. That thing's kind of coming up. That's gaining steam. It's in the news. So all these people
Mhm.
that didn't need to be buying properties, that were not treating them like a business, had the ability to buy properties and did not treat them like a business because they wanted these sexy assets. So what happened was a lot of people got their asses handed to them in
Mhm.
2021 and 22. They called it the Airbnb bust, which it was not a bust, and I'll explain why here in a minute. But since 2022, the supply influx has cooled off. The tide's kind of gone back out on that. A lot of the markets that they were calling saturated because they had a lot of supply are they're back on the lists of best places to invest because that supply has shrunk and demand has always been there, but supply just went way over here for a minute, but it's kind of come back down to reality now. So those markets that have that heavy tourism, decades long, proven tourism, like your Joshua Trees, Orlando, Destin, Florida, the Smokies, all those places, now that that supply has shrunk, have really kind of bumped back up to being not quite, not fully recovered, but definitely like we're a very stabilized asset class, which is good. That needed
Mhm.
to happen. So we're stabilized just like apartment buildings, just like single family long term. So um, one thing though, that back to the Airbnb bus thing that I want to highlight is yes, between 2021 and 2023, short-term rental incomes, rents went down. But what people didn't realize is that most people have not owned prior to 2020. So they were only looking at, okay, man, I made all this money in 2020. It went down, actually bumped back up some. It increased in 2024. So we saw a little bit of a bounce there. But when you're only looking from 2020 to 2024, you're like, oh, damn, it's an Airbnb bust. But if you back that y axis up, I guess it's a y-axis. I barely know statistics. That other line on the
Mhm.
left-hand side up to 2015, it is a very steady trending
Nice.
upwards. Like it's not a bust from 2020 to 24. It's more of a blip. So to give you like a real life anecdote, properties that we were happy to make 45,000 a year on in 2015 that we still own, they went up to like I think 85,000 was the most we ever made on them in
Oh, wow.
2022, but we're still in the high 70s.
Wow.
So that's not a bust,
Mm.
guys. Like you just got
Yeah.
to back it up and look at the bigger picture.
So is this sort of if you got in early and you understood what the numbers should be, right? Instead of the blip, but if you're being conservative with, okay, you know what, this is how much I expect to make per year on Airbnb. If you were conservative on those numbers, then you probably would have been okay throughout the duration. Where, hey, if it's going higher, then that's good, but
Mhm.
you're not relying on this high amount, maybe to pay for the mortgage or to pay for some of the expenses. I mean, do you think that would have been something to take into consideration?
Yeah, so I think there were a lot of people didn't run numbers
Mhm.
conservatively enough, but really what the biggest mistake that I saw people make was thinking, okay, I've bought a really nice house in a great market. I'm done. It's going to make money. I don't have to do anything else. But it is a business that you do have. It's not a hard business to run. It's easy. You can do it from the bed or the bar or the gym or wherever you want to be. But it is, you do have to set your systems up and you have to manage well. So I think most
Makes
people
sense.
there were either in that camp or the FOMO camp of okay, it's 2021, there's 100 offers on every single thing, so I'm gonna maybe scoot a little bit further away from the attraction. So maybe they bought something a little bit weird, a little too far away, not the
Mm.
typical aesthetic
Mm.
for the market. So like in mountain markets, people typically want cabins. Well, if you go buy a brick ranch home because it was easier to get because there weren't as many offers, well, it's not going to rent as well as the more popular styles of properties. So it was a number of things.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. What do you use for like I imagine you have really good systems for criteria developing, what is the criteria for your property in terms of numbers, ratios, all that. You already mentioned you like vacation spots, but what about the numbers?
Yeah. So for me, the numbers, I want to see a property that can get to, not that is doing, that can get to a 15% cash on cash return. Used to be 20%. Those days are kind of gone, but 15%, like really well. That's a really good number. Now, I'm not looking for properties that are sitting there doing that now, because you're not going to find that on the MLS. I'm looking for properties where the opportunity is there to push them at the price that I'm able to get them for up above that 15% mark. So whether that's, I mean, I have the most luck, honestly, with properties where the listing agents took bad pictures and nobody looked at them. Like
Yeah.
nobody went to
That's
look at them in
always the
person
best.
because they look
Yeah.
like crap on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Yeah, I've had two.
they listed
Yeah, I've had
something
some major
wrong.
deals that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
or
seen
yeah, they
listings
listed something
where,
wrong.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd argue
Here
that's
in
the number one strategy for every real estate investment, is just look on the MLS for really bad pictures, dark
yeah.
pictures, overpriced, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but people will be like, that's not, I want a nicer beach house than that, and this one doesn't look that nice. So they kind of let
That's
their
right.
personal preferences get involved with it because again, it's not the apartment building in Omaha, it's my beach house. So there's a little bit of that too. But ugliest property in the best location, worst picture, highest days on market, overpriced, low balling. I just got a deal in New Orleans for $60,000 off a $700,000 purchase price,
Hmm.
just because it had been on market for a while and offered low. And they said no at first. And then we said, okay, well, there's this other one that we're kind of looking at too. And it's very similarly priced. So, whoever will give us the best deal is kind of who we're going to go with. And this seller had been living there and she was moving away. And she was finally like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'll just do it.
Yeah. She gave up.
Yeah, she did.
Avery, I'm curious. So is valuation not as important as long as you're getting that 15% cash on cash? Because you like you
Well,
mentioned this one at 60,000 off of 700.
mhm.
If you're still going to get, would you pay the 700 if you're still going to get the 15% cash on cash?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that does, so valuate the basis is not as important as your potential cash on cash. Is that right?
Right. Well, I mean, there's no real rules of thumb anymore. I know everybody's got one, and I don't really subscribe to anyone's because there's nothing that works across the board. There's no rule of thumb that works all the time for everybody, for everybody's situation. So if at the end of the day, the end of the year, the amount of cash that you're going to have left over is worth the amount of money that you have to put down and the effort and the time it takes you to manage this thing, if that's worth it to you, then it's a good deal.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the Airbnbs, 15% cash on cash return, is it primarily with the owner managing the Airbnb? Do you ever look at, hey, we're going to put a co-host to manage this and sort of adding that expense and seeing if you get the 15% cash on cash?
So here's what I do. I use VAs. We train our own VAs
Okay.
to help us manage because at the end of the day, it's significantly cheaper. So, I mean, to kind of illustrate that, so we've got 8 properties, 8 short terms. And if I was going to pay a co-host or a property manager 20%, which is pretty standard, I'd have paid somebody $250,000 last year to do a $50,000 a year tops job. So it just stops making sense after a while. So for me, I prefer the VA route, which is what we teach in the new book.
Nice.
Is how to set up your systems and how to train VAs, how to set up your standard operating procedure. It's not all about VAs, but there's a lot of, systems, processes, operations in there to help you optimize so that, again, you're not having to outsource, $250,000 for a one-person admin task.
That makes sense. Amy, since we're talking about the book, I read Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. I heard it. I'm all about audiobooks if I'm at the gym or something. So what I really liked about the book, some of the tips that you share, right? I like that you provided, hey, these are some of the applications. These are some of the tools that I use. And I thought that it was a pretty straightforward blueprint if you say, right, if you want to start
Mhm.
out, you're hearing a lot about Airbnbs, it was pretty straightforward as far as these are the things that you need to do. With the new book, Smarter Short-Term Rentals, how is that different, or what can some of the readers expect as compared to the previous book?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first book, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, was more of a primer. Okay, this is how to choose a market. These are the different types of markets. These are the types of properties, how to choose a property, how to analyze, how to finance, just kind of the whole investment structure. And this one builds on a few concepts from that book in terms of things that have changed about financing since that one was written in 2020. But really, it's more on the business side of optimizing your short term. Basically, taking whatever property you may already have and making that better
Nice.
through your own management. So it's really for new or experienced investors, whereas the previous one's really like for new investors.
Okay, I'm excited.
Yeah. How do you, I'm curious, how you go and find, your cleaning, maintenance, your boots on the ground for a market that you don't live in?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Hmm,
So that's why I like very tried and true vacation towns, because it's going to be very easy to find those types of people, because there's the industry of vacation rentals is so established in those types of markets. So it's going to be a lot easier to plug your business in Destin, Florida than in Columbus, Mississippi, because short-term rentals, vacation rentals have been such a big piece of the economy in Destin for the last century. And, in Columbus, you're going to get, people who may be coming to visit the military base. You're going to have to find a cleaner who probably cleans primary homes, that you're going to have to teach them how to turn a vacation rental. It's a different process, and it's just a different thing. So for me, I prefer the big, well-traveled vacation towns because it's so much easier to find those vendors that you need. There's a huge infrastructure of them.
Yeah.
yeah, that makes a
Cool.
lot of sense.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Um, so let's say you've helped someone buy an STR. The listing is live. How do you help them maximize the profit, or minimize the vacancy? And I guess the question that I'm really getting to is it primarily Airbnb that you rely on? Are there other sites or OTAs that you use, or sort of what does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So we put all of our buyer clients through a free course for our buyers that we call Management Monday. And 9 times out of 10, if you are following a US based real estate investor, short term rental um, influencer on Instagram or TikTok, they started with buying their first property with the short term shop and coming through Management Monday. So
Hmm.
we teach people how to set up their listings on Airbnb, Vrbo. You do want to have a direct booking site, not because you're going to get so many direct bookings, but because you need to have that in order to integrate with Google Vacation Rentals, which Google Vacation Rentals, they've entered the space, but they're kind of sitting there like we don't know if they're going to hit the gas on it or like throw it away yet. So it's
Hmm.
something that you want to make sure you're set up for if possible. We teach people how to use, the property management softwares that you'll need. So there's a number of different property management software systems that are like really, really great and easy to use. We use Hospitable. Another good
Yeah.
one is Hostaway. There's one called Hostfully. There's one called OwnerRez. They're all really great. OwnerRez is probably the most comprehensive. It's also the hardest to use. Got to have a pricing tool. So Price Labs or Wheelhouse or Beyond Pricing, all great options that, helps to optimize your pricing on your calendar to make sure you're getting booked for the highest amount possible.
Mhm.
We also get everybody set up with a list of vetted vendors, cleaners, handymen, HVAC techs, roofers, everybody you're probably going to need at some point. We get everybody set up with those. And we just kind of make sure that everyone has a basic understanding of how to use all of those things, learning to how to price your property. So
Mhm.
even though you're using Price Labs, you still have to go in there and check. It's not a set it and forget it. You kind of have to, like, we look at our pricing every day and we say, oh, you know what? We're 5 weeks out. We're not seeing bookings, even though Price Labs has set the price. I think we need to drop it a little bit to try and get some asses in the seats. So definitely just, teaching you how to use all the software. So you need a property management software, a pricing tool. You got to have Airbnb, Vrbo, and a direct booking website to start off.
Okay. Are you ever doing, so I'm playing around with some like Price Labs. I started to play around with it. It's powerful. I found that it wasn't that straightforward. Like I really had to sit down and go through some of the tutorials just to figure out how to do some things and how to get the most out of the application. But I guess in terms of optimizing your listings, uh, is there such a thing as like SEO optimization for VRBO or for Airbnb or getting granular and trying to see, okay, how does my listing rank on some of these sites, or is it more really pricing? Like, is pricing really that thing that you have to master?
Yeah, so that's a great question. In terms of your listings, so there are SEO tricks that you want to use. You want to make sure you're using keywords that are important to the guests who are coming to stay. So you want to make sure in your listing, also in just how it looks, that it's not just a big long black paragraph that people are not going to read. You want it to be bullet points with some space in between, so with the very pertinent information that they'll need. So if it's a 3-bedroom, but it has 2 beds in every room, so like has 6 beds, then you want to say 6 beds, right up top. Anything important that they need to know, like how close it is to the main attractions, does it have amenities, just the things that would make somebody want to book it. You need it to be right there. Also, you want to have amazing photos. Let me back up before I get to photos. So in your listing, a lot of people get real caught up and wanting to make it a cool story. Like, is it a dark and stormy night and welcome to grandma's beautiful cabin and a luxurious blah, blah, blah. Wait, none of those words matter to a guest. What matters is like, okay, can I fit my whole family there? Are we going to be comfortable?
Nice.
What are the amenities? What do we have to do? How's the location? So stop with the flowery stories. Nobody cares. Same thing with your headline. So everybody names their properties. Like I name my properties mainly, it's fun. Okay. It's fun to name your properties for it to have a name. But when you're looking at a spreadsheet and you've got 10 of these, it's a lot easier to remember, like, okay, this one's Bark at the Moon. This one is Misty Mountain Hop. So we know what we're looking at. But what a lot of people do is in the headline, which is the most important piece of real estate on your listing, because people are going to see that whether they click into your listing or not. A lot of people put the name of their property in the headline, which you're wasting a lot of really important real estate. So, if you've got a ski property that's ski in, ski out, forget, we're not calling it, Avery's Alpine Getaway in the top. We're putting it's ski in, ski out. So, click on this if you're looking for a ski in, ski out. So make sure that you're properly utilizing the real estate in your headline. Also, you have to have amazing photos. Your iPhone is not good enough. Everybody says, well, the iPhone has the blah, 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 new camera, but you are not a photographer. It doesn't matter. You can give me a paintbrush. I am not.
I was going to say Picasso, but
yeah, not whoever, you have to get professional photos.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm wondering, I've heard recently a lot about boutique hotels. Like people are using that for Airbnb. What's your thoughts around that?
Yes. So boutique hotels, very logical next step to scaling if you want to get into the commercial side of short-term rentals. It does seem to be a little more work for the same amount of money in terms of how much you're spending, how much you're having to spend on it, and having a bunch of little rooms instead of one unit. But the plus side is that commercial real estate is appraised based on the income approach, whereas residential is valued based on sold comps. So if you've got a short-term rental, single family, that when you bought it, it was not a rental, it was making $0, and you made it make $100,000 a year, and you go to sell it, well, it's still valued based on the sold properties around it that may or may not be rentals. It's still the same value, whether it makes $0 or $100,000. Whereas a motel or hotel, if you buy one of those and take it from buy it at it's making 50,000, first year you get it up to 100,000. Well, you've increased the value of the property. If you go to sell it now, it's worth more because you have made it worth more because it makes more money. So commercial real estate is valued differently. So if that is a world that you want to get into, you can get into a pretty good position of adding equity easier to properties, but it's also harder to finance, harder to do. You need actual staff. It's more difficult than with a single family short-term rental. You just hire a handyman, a cleaner, you're good, you're done. But with hotels, you kind of have to have a staff. But they're both cool. I've never bought a boutique hotel, but it's not that I wouldn't. It's just that I am set in my ways of I've got my short-term rentals, I got my single family long-terms, I got my apartments, and in the markets that we buy in, and we just kind of pick those off. It feels like so hard to learn a new asset class in a new market at this point. So we just haven't.
You stick to your markets too? Or you expand?
For now, yeah. Yeah, for now, it's just easier since we have so many to just add to the systems that we already have. Now, when we started, we did 5 in the Smokies, then we shot down to Destin, 30A, Cape Sandblast. So those are all kind of 3 different markets because we've got different cleaners for each of them. But now with as many as we have, like ease and adding to the existing systems is a little bit better. But what a lot of people do is they just buy short-term rentals where they want a vacation. Mm-hmm. They'll buy, it's why I started the short-term shop. Yeah. They'd buy mountain property with me and say, okay, I want to buy a beach one. Who do I buy with at the beach? And they buy where they want to go. So that's a strategy too.
Yeah. That makes sense. You're on vacation, you're doing a little bit of work, you can probably write it off or something, but you're kind of, killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess just to pivot a little bit. So I know you're known as, I guess I'm going to say the STR person or the STR expert, right? The short-term shop. But when I look at social media, right, in the presence, it's like you're the expert social media influencer, right, in the STR space. So I guess, how did you get started with that? How important is it for you? And anything you can sort of share around that social media and this Instagram and things like that.
Oh, I hate social media. I hate it. And I wouldn't even take a selfie until 2020 because I thought it was douchey. So really, as time has gone on, like you can't be a small business owner without having a good social media presence, and not just to like, hey, buy tires at Bob's Tires. Thanks for coming. Like, let me post something once a week. Like you have to have a real presence and be building a relationship with your audience. So for me, like, I don't think we don't really get any clients or leads from social media, but it helps to have a big presence. So when people do come across us, they go to look us up, they see this big presence and go, oh, okay, they're legit. So I hate doing social media. There's nothing I hate more than standing right here and taking videos, saying things. But it has to be done. That's just small business ownership these days. So it is what it is, but I'm a reluctant influencer.
Nice. That's good. It probably makes you a good influencer then.
It's authentic.
It's just what yeah. I'm getting into that space, and I have a channel where I'm just sharing real estate tips and information and just things that I've picked up along the way. And it just seems like there's so much information out there. It's overwhelming. But then I come across information that is not correct, or it just seems like it's out there just to catch views instead of really providing some value. And that's what I struggle with. It's just like, how do you create content that's helpful, and and sort of cut some of that noise and try to get people to actually see it because there's just so much out there. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot of noise. A lot of noise.
yeah, yeah.
If I could take it back to the short-term rental thing, I was just curious to know where you see, since you've been in it for a while and seen its evolution, where you see it going from here. How will it be changing? You know, how where where the growth opportunities are, you know.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I see more metro markets imposing anti-short-term rental regulations, and I mean they should, like I if I lived in Dallas or Houston and my income was not dependent on short-term rentals and short-term rentals were a new thing in my neighborhood, I wouldn't want them there either. And a lot of the
Mm,
hotels, hotels in big cities have a lot of influence. And I think that a lot of the metro areas are going to start, I don't know if they'll outright ban them, but definitely limit them, which will commodify properties in those markets that are in the zones that allow them, but B, commodify vacation rental real estate. So beach and mountain real estate even more to where, hey, this is really the only type of real estate you can buy where you can do the vacation rental strategy.
Hmm. I see the I, I I I see the regulations being imposed. I'm in Colorado, and there's a lot of regulations being imposed in
Mhm.
our mountain towns as well. So these are
Yeah.
historically vacation towns. So
Yeah, that's because the big conglomerates that own the ski slopes and everything, they own all the hotels there. Those are the biggest employers in those towns, and they don't want short-term rentals because they want you to rent with them. They want to own the
mm,
short-term rentals.
mhm.
So it's the same thing as like the hotel lobbyists in the more metro type areas. Because I mean, I'd love to own a cabin in Breckenridge or somewhere like that, but those big conglomerates that own the ski resorts, they just it won't let it happen.
right. Yeah, and their fees are outrageous. I was managing a few actually in Vail, and their fees were 50%, which
Oh
it
wow, yeah.
was
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
Well,
So
how
interesting.
do you get ahead of that? I mean, we're talking about some of the regulations in the different cities. How do you keep a pulse on what's going on in your market or market you're thinking of entering, just to see how things are shifting or maybe shifting?
Yeah, just keep an eye on the city council meetings for sure. Definitely, give the city if you're inside city limits or county if you're outside city limits a call here and there just to check on what's coming down the pipe. Um, I would never recommend buying somewhere without like before you even get a loan pre-approval, before you call a real estate agent, call. Don't take the internet's word for it,
Yeah.
and don't take your realtor's word for it. Call. This goes for everything, not just regulations. Call hear from the horse's mouth exactly what the situation is and what they see coming, and make your decisions
Yeah, yeah, that
accordingly.
makes sense. I think the city here, the city of Boston, they probably know me by first name now. Just because again, there's a lot of regulations. There were things that were there, and then one year they sort of just came in and interpreted the things differently, and they kind of became more strict, even though they didn't make an amendment to the rules. But things sort of just changed and shifted overnight that affected the business. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I agree 100%. I pick up the phone, I call, I ask, try to push nicely and just
Mhm.
sort of see how things go.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's all
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
do.
What about I'm curious for people who want to try this with their own home. You hear a lot about like, just to tiptoe into this world. You hear folks who, maybe convert a basement or a garage or an ADU of some sort. Like, any tips for such people? And, do you recommend it? Like, is that a good way to get started?
Yeah, so if you're trying to get started, I mean, it's very similar to a house hack. So if you're trying to get started and you really just your biggest expense is usually your primary home mortgage. So anything you can do to offset that, whether it's having long-term roommates or maybe you've got a space that you can turn into a short-term rental to give them their own private space, whatever you need to do to get yourself started, to get that money saved up for a down payment, do it. I mean, my husband drove Uber. Like my husband had a real job. He was or still is part-time, but back then he was full-time, a classic rock DJ on Sirius XM. He was on 12 hours a day. And he would get done with that, get in the car and go Uber, and people would recognize him and say, "Oh, aren't you the guy from the radio?" It'd be so embarrassing, oh wow, I look like I'm destitute driving Uber, but he didn't care. We got to have this extra money so that we can go invest. And then now, 7 or 8 years later, it's a fun story to tell. But back then, it sucked, and you have to do sucky things to get where you want to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's the good and the bads.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. So, conferences. So actually, this I'm learning from Lewis. Lou's always inviting me to conferences, right? Network, meet with other people. Last year, I did a horrible job at it. So this year, I'm being more intentional. So I guess with conferences, you speak at a lot of conferences, a lot of the real estate, bigger pockets, the midterm summit, midterm rental summit. So you're everywhere. But I guess for you, are there any conferences that you attend to get motivated, keep growing, or to get additional education? Is there anything like that for Avery Call as a attendee?
So I really like the Bigger Pockets conference because it's multiple types of real estate. So there's usually something there that I haven't heard of or that I want to learn more about that I can sit in on. I try to limit my travel. We've got two little kids. They're 4 and I almost said 2 and 4. That was years ago. They're 4 and 6. And since I speak at so many, have not really been able to get out and go to any just to learn, just because I don't like to be away from the kids. So, that time will come, but
Yeah.
Bigger Pockets conference for me is it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Nice, nice. Okay, all right. I'm trying to make it out there, so hopefully I'll see you in
Yeah,
person
it's in Vegas this year.
at either the midterm or the Bigger Pockets. Yeah.
Great. So, Avery, we like to end off with these 4 regular questions we ask of all our guests. We call them
All right.
world famous Wayfinder 4. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. The first one is, can you share with us a hack that you use, just like a life hack?
This is going to sound very trite and like a broken record, but waking up early, 4 a.m. every day. My husband and I both not on the same floor of the house. I don't want him coming up to my level of the house and talking to me. I'm not waking up early to talk to you. I'm waking up early to get work done. So we both wake up at 4, work from 4 to 6. He runs a lot of marathons. He's crazy. But so he runs. He'll work for an hour and then go run. And then kids wake up at 6 and we get the day going then. But really, you just get a lot of those things that will pile up on you finished early in the morning when there's nobody else awake, pinging you for things or calling you or emailing you or there's no fires to put out. So that's probably and I just think better first thing in the morning. So that's my biggest hack. That, and I quit drinking 6 years ago, and that's been like a game changer too, because you sleep so much better. You wake up, I was to the point where I guess it just happens when you get old. Like I'd have 1 glass of wine after work, and in the morning I'm like, what is this headache? Why am I foggy? So, quitting drinking made a huge difference too, just with sleep and hydration and anxiety. I had terrible anxiety, so getting rid of that, cut it in half.
That makes sense. It's also you save a lot of money. I at least I find myself when I'm doing dry January or something like that, it's like you spend a lot. It's expensive.
Yeah, yes, it is.
I'll do the second one. So your favorite something, I don't know if it's a book, song, or tell us about your favorite something. Yeah.
My favorite something, my favorite band, our family's favorite band, Kiss. My husband and I have seen them, I don't know, a ton of times. We've got all the We got tons of Kiss memorabilia in the house. In our old house, we had a Kiss room that had Kiss murals on every wall. We took the kids to see Kiss's final show at Madison Square Garden in December of 2023. It was awesome. So we love rock and roll around here, but Kiss is a family tradition at this point.
That's cool. Taking the
Awesome.
kids to a band or whatever that you like grew up and love and within love is the best feeling, isn't it?
Oh yeah, listen, my kids have quite a list of band. They've seen the Rolling Stones, they've seen AC/DC, they've seen Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, like any classic rock and metal. They've seen Elton. No, they haven't seen Elton. They've seen Billy Joel. Like so many great ones. The Eagles.
Wow.
Legends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So give us a piece of advice for your younger self.
For my younger self, you couldn't tell me anything when I was younger. But for people who might be younger than me at this point, I mean, the biggest thing for me is I just wish I would have started earlier. And everybody acts like, oh, you can't start now. You can't start now. And everybody's always going to say that no matter when now is. Yesterday is always going to have been the best time. But the second best time is today. And I do think the
Yeah.
way the real estate market is right now, it's dead, guys. It is dead. Like I said, fewer homes sold 2023 and 2024 than in the last 65 years. And when I started
Yeah.
investing in 2013, everybody was like, no, you had to invest in 2009 and 2010 right after the crash. Now it doesn't make sense. I truly do think people will in 10 years, maybe even 5 years, look at 2023 and 24 as like, damn, I wish I would have bought then, like as another 2008. Like we
Yeah.
didn't see the big price drop, but I think that people are going to look at this and go, man, I should have bought then.
I'm with you there.
I
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Choice between a big opportunity or a limited belief.
Okay. A limiting belief
Yeah.
that I have,
Yeah. Yes.
or wait, what does a big opportunity mean?
Uh,
So really it's anything, how does that resonate with you? Pick one of those two and kind of, chat about it. What maybe a big opportunity that you see out there or limited beliefs you have and how you overcome it, kind of thing.
Okay. Well, I think a big limiting belief that everybody has when they start investing in real estate is that they don't have enough money or that they can't, that they don't have enough money, they don't have enough knowledge. And it really, you will find a way to do the things that you prioritize. I regularly get people commenting on my social media like, you're crazy. We can't even save for a bag of chips today. Well, get an extra job. Like nobody wants to hear that, well, maybe I mean, if I had to cut out my bar tab when I was 21, I would have saved a lot of money.
No doubt.
So, you know, I know it sounds so like I sound like such an old man, like boomer. You can't save your way to wealth, but you can if you want to prioritize bringing in an extra income so that you can just get to that down payment to get started. You can do that. Anybody can do that, but people don't want to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Uh,
And with real estate, one of the other things, it's a deal's a deal, and you can find the money for a deal even if you don't have any, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I can't tell you. Jesus was saying how I go to a conference that was just at one in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago, and we're all there, a bunch of old brokers sharing deals of all different sorts from around the country. Half the people who were there were just there with money to give to people to
yes.
invest. You know what I'm saying? So like not having money is not an excuse to get into real estate. You don't get to
Yeah.
keep as much of the pie, but
Mhm.
you still get a piece of it, and that's better than nothing,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
yeah,
I like to think that if you set the intention, right? So if you want to buy a home, okay, you don't have the down payment yet, but if you set the intention of, okay, how can I get the money? How can I do it? Now you're
yeah,
opening it up, and sometimes money will come to you, right? I mean, you wouldn't even be able to make it up, but one way, one how, some way, somehow, it'll come to you. You can figure it out. You can get another job, or you can do something to make it happen. But you have to begin with just, hey, the intention of this is what I'm going to do, and we'll figure it out along the way. I
totally.
think if you just shut yourself down at the beginning, then that's it, right? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Avery, thank you so much for being on the show. If people want to know a little bit more about you, maybe get your books, where can they do that?
Yeah. So best place to go is our website, theshorttermshop.com, or you can follow the Short Term Shop on Instagram. It's at the Short Term Shop. Or if you want to follow me personally, I'm at the Avery Carl. You can pick up the book, both of the books. Probably the best deal is going to be on the Bigger Pockets bookstore. So it's biggerpockets.com/smarterstr. You can get them in Amazon or on Amazon, sorry, or wherever books are sold. You can walk into Barnes and Noble and pick one up, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anywhere books are
Nice.
sold, but website, Instagram, find us there.
Awesome. Well,
That's
thank you so
nice.
much for your time, Avery. This is also, like you said, we kind of surprised you at the beginning, but Jesus has been a special guest co-host here. So if people want to connect with you, Jesus, where can they do that?
The best place for people to connect with me would be on Instagram. They can follow me at the real estate underscore mindset. Here I share different tips on home buying, creative financing strategies, information on STRs like Airbnb, midterm, long-term rentals. So it's really just a lot of the information that I've collected over the past along my real estate journey. I share here on my IG channel and just hoping that this information can help other people.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys. It's been a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.